Got the Dolphins jacket on, man. I'm digging the Dolphins pullover. The Dolphini pullover.
I need to go. Next time I go to Indy, I need to see if they got one for the Colts.
Well, clearly, Fanatics makes the same thing in every color.
Oh, yeah.
On it. So, come on, man. I mean, I wonder if there's a Colts thing that exists.
Okay. Okay, fine. One that exists that sells like $1 million.
Well, that's true. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. I know, don't adjust your screens. It's actually me. I am back this week. Married now, got the ring to prove it. Married now, and was honeymooning last week in Daytona in the NASCAR capital of the world, and got to actually. I didn't do any of the tours at the track, but passed the track a couple of times. Saw the Streamline Hotel, which has the NASCAR flag still out in the middle of it for where they pretty much formed NASCAR right then. So it was pretty cool. I got to have a little fun in Florida. Florida was great last week. We did not run into any rain until on our way home through Jacksonville. So you tell me, if Florida's this great, I may would actually consider going down there more often.
Yeah, you talk about this rain. Literally, it's been raining down here for like the past 3 days straight.
Well, we missed all of it. Have you been to Disney?
I've been to Orlando in a long time. Like, literally, the saying in Florida is the more northern you go, the more southern it gets.
I could see that because, then Miami's not even like part of Florida. Miami is like Cuba 2.0.
Just South Florida in general. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Dania, Palm Beach.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it, man. This is my first time at Disney. Disney was cool. We didn't go to any of the stuff that has like, Pixar and Lightning McQueen, which would have been fire. So, we had to deal with Mickey's old Mickey Mouse looking ass, So it was cool. We went to Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. Had a good time. Obviously came back. It sucked having to go back to work after having 10 days off. But, I can't complain too much. We're here now, back kind of getting back in the cycle of things. Had to go back to the gym for the first time in 2 weeks the other day, which was not too terrible. So we got Matt in here, our Canadian friend, always supporting. He's in here. But yeah, so here we are. Let's get into it. There was a race. I finally got to see a race. Missed all of Martinsville because that was the same night as my wedding. And as much as I begged and pleaded, we could not get a flat screen at our reception to show the race because apparently more important things were happening. Yeah, hand a bit heavier there, Matt. I got the ring. This is actually not my original, so we just got this in. My original, it was wanting to fit, but it was still kind of loose. And I was like, me need to get something a little bit tighter. I actually have now at this point 3 wedding rings. I have the original black one, this one, and then I ordered a Panthers silicone ring that I had months ago. I've worn it sometimes if I'm doing something crazy. It's bright blue. It's awesome. But yeah, finally got to see a race. Missed Martinsville, like I was saying. There was no race the weekend after that. And hold up. It was the way that's what it was. There was no race on Easter. Then we had Martinsville that I missed. And then I actually got to see, obviously, Richmond. We made it back a day early, so I was able to see Richmond. Fell asleep on lap 5. That's mainly because I was tired, not because the race was boring yet. But did see this back half of the race. I pretty much slept through the first 2 stages. Saw the back half of the race. Did you get to see any of the race, Armany?
I was working. I saw maybe 50, 60 laps. Yeah,
you got to see a little bit of highlights. So before we kind of get into the moral of what the race was, let's kind of look at it. Top 5 from the race. Alex Bowman takes the win in really kind of a shocking fashion. Late race restart. He had been fast, been flirting with the top 5, been in the top 5, but Denny Hamlin had been dominating this thing. And you're thinking, again, Denny Hamlin's probably could have finally get a win in 2021. He probably should have won 4 races by now. You're thinking Denny Hamlin's going to finally get there. He's going to get there. Well, nope, he didn't. Typical Denny Hamlin fashion, did not get the job done at the racetrack this weekend. Alex Bowman takes the win. Denny Hamlin comes home second. Joey Logano third. Christopher Bell finishes 4th. Bell's actually having a quietly good season, so really good run for Bell there. Martin Truex Jr., he comes home to round out the top 5. So I'm sure did you get this? I'm sure you've seen the replay of the restart with Bowman and everything. And I know you're not a Bowman fan, but you like the 48. You like you want to see Bowman have success. So what did you think? Did you get to see his win live, or was that something you watched later on?
No, that's something I watched later on.
So what did you think? I'm assuming you saw the restart late in the race. What did you think about Bowman's performance there late in the end? And hey, finally, all they needed in the 48 car was a competent race car driver.
First of all, I know you're one of the guys who've been shitting on Bowman for the longest time. So this man's trying to turn a 180 on Bowman. Do we need to pull up the tweets?
Listen,
of you shitting on Bowman?
No. I've said, mind you, I picked Bowman to me in the playoffs, which insinuated he was either going to point or win his way in. I think Bowman.
16 drivers.
Listen, great. There might be 16 drivers. I could have said he's not going to make it. I respect Bowman for what he is. But everyone, remember, through 4 races last year, people tried to tell me he was a championship favorite. All right? So I haven't flipped the script on Alex Bowman. I feel the same way about Alex Bowman now that I did a year ago. Now, did he impress me a little bit on Sunday? Yes. It was the best moment he's had thus far in his Cup career with what took place on that final restart. But I still don't think he's going to be a championship guy. I just don't think he is that guy. Maybe he proves me wrong. I thought Chase Elliott may never win a championship. I predicted him to win 1, but I could have easily seen him to not win 1. I just don't think Bowman's got that championship DNA. Now, if that happens, then you can come back and replay this video and be like, damn, he was pretty stupid. But back to the original question before someone tried to slander me live on air. Talk about the 48 getting back in victory lane and seeing Alex Bowman get the top done.
It was good. Bowman's had a lot of bad luck this year. He's had the cars like Bristol, Martinsville, I believe Vegas also. But he just hasn't had the finishes to show for it because mostly of bad luck. So to finally see something for that 48 team finally, work, get done right, it was pretty cool to see. I remember I was at work and I was like, waiting for the notification to like, okay, Hamlin wins the race or Logano or Truex. And I saw Bowman win. I was like, what the hell? Bowman won this race? Which automatically means Richmond's going to get shut down. I mean, they're going to bulldoze the track. It'll probably be destroyed by a tornado or something. But it was cool to finally see the 48 in victory lane after technically, points paying wise, 4 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. This is the first win also in the Camaro for the 48. So that's kind of crazy to think about. We're going to fight.
All it took was to finally put a race car driver in that car and it won. But
hey, last time I checked, Gordon ain't driving Indy cars.
Yeah, well, I mean, from what it looks like, Jimmy Johnson's barely driving Indy cars. So,
hey, not last. I'll drink to that.
Much respect to Jimmy Johnson, one of the goats of the sport. But Bowman was really impressive. That's probably, to me, it's the most impressive moment of his career to go in that late race restart, and you still pretty much assumed it was going to be Hamlin or Logano. Those two guys have been in this situation time and time again. They both have, so many race wins under their belt. Those two have raced each other so much under their belt. And you were thinking Bowman might have to take a look, but there's no way he's going to get this done. Logano does whatever Logano does on the restart. Bowman just passes Denny Hamlin straight up and rolls on about his business. And I think Hamlin was getting close. Maybe if there was another lap or two, Hamlin could have got to the bumper and moved the 48. But Bowman flat out did his job. I know they said that the Ives he pumped up the tire pressures, got it ready to roll, and I mean he kicked their ass right there with the last few laps. So much props to Alex Bowman. You got a whole pile of Uncrustables from Ally for that win, which is a great choice in snack. So yeah, Alex Bowman gets the job done. But the bigger narrative from this race that we really need to talk about is, man, Richmond ain't a short track, dog. I've tried to tell everybody for years that Richmond is not a short track. By theory, yes. You can give your definition. My true definition of a short track is anything shorter than a mile in length. So no, New Hampshire and Dover are not short. There's a reason I highlighted Dover, because for whatever reason, no one has ever considered Dover a short track. This man tells me 2 days ago, I don't think Dover's a short track. And so my situation is anything under a mile in length would be considered a short track.
You see, my definition is anything a mile or in length. So that's why I consider New Hampshire a short track. I consider Phoenix a short track. Yes, I consider Dover a short track. Just because also, I mean, yeah, I know it's like technically a NASCAR show, but in any other series, you have a track that's a mile in length. You would consider it a short track. When Indy cars were going to New Hampshire, they were going to Phoenix. That was a short track for them. So I'm just kind of like, okay, every other series is basically like a mile or lower is going to be a short track. That's why I consider anything a mile or below a short track.
Short track, dog.
Not short track. Dover's my favorite. When we get to Dover, I'm going to say Dover's my favorite short track on the schedule.
If Dover was 0.99 miles, I'd consider it. But it's not. All right? It's 1.0. It's probably actually just like 1.07253. You know how they build, But Dover's not a short track. New Hampshire could only dream to be a short track. But another thing we were talking about is there's also a difference between being a short track and having short track racing. And that's my biggest grievance with Richmond. And I know this first thing people are going to say, well, it shouldn't take a caution to make a good race. And it doesn't always take caution to take a good race. I think there was a stat that there'd only been 2 natural cautions in like the last 850 laps at Richmond. So how is that a short track? Because at a short track, you beat and you bang, you turn each other around, you get pissed off, you do this, you do that. That really doesn't happen at Richmond anymore. There's a lot of side-by-side racing. Now, the race ended with 3 or 4 guys having a shot at it, but for the most part, you had a guy dominate the race. There was only like 7 cars on the lead lap. Wasn't nothing crazy. There was nothing super entertaining the second half of that race that I watched besides the end. So to me, yes, is Richmond a short track? By theory, of course, it meets the qualifications, I guess you could say. It has a good resume on paper, but when you do more investigating into Richmond, it's been pretty boring as of late. Richmond needs Jeremy Mayfield. That's what Richmond needs. Those late season heroics to make the chase or the playoffs, whatever you wanted to call it back then. I haven't been impressed with Richmond lately. I could care less if Richmond was on the schedule or not. Obviously, I want it to be there for more short tracks, but I don't know if it's just package. I think package does have something to do with it there. I would argue it's probably the most aerodynamic of the short tracks. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but Richmond has not impressed me. If I miss a Bristol or Martinsville race, I'm usually pretty bummed. If I miss a race at Richmond, I'm kind of like, well, there's always next week.
I agree with you. Yeah, Richmond just been kind of lackluster as a race. I don't know. I kind of like Richmond. I kind of like the racing we get. It's different. I don't think every short track, we already get that with Martinsville at the beat and the bang. We already get that at Bristol at the beat and the bang. And, that Richmond is kind of more like a tame short track. I kind of like it. You do get the, 2016, you had the bump and run. I think 2017 was pretty good a race when Kyle Busch just flat murdered Truex on the final lap. So, we've had some good Richmond moments as of late. I think it's more of a car thing, and also for the fact that I did see some highlights of the race. I think because Richmond is usually run at the night when you have all these lanes that are workable, when you have the track that's so cool. I think Richmond lends itself better to the day because Richmond at night, in my opinion, is just straight up awful.
The one thing I do like about Richmond is the unique shape of it, the configuration of it's definitely unique. And you want to have those different looking tracks on the schedule. Richmond has good qualities. I think a lot of it is the car. We've said time and time again, you can't wreck these cars. You can't really get sideways in these cars. Or you'll get sideways, but you're going to save it. The aero and downforce are so tight on these cars. I think that's part of it is, getting up off the corner at Richmond is very difficult. And with these cars, as much as you want to push the limit, even pushing the limits, you don't really get out of control. You don't really lose control of the car. So I think that's part of what has hurt Richmond in recent years. You do make points. There are certain moments from the last few years, but I don't know. It just hasn't been super impressive to me as of late, especially when you see the product that Bristol or Martinsville has been able to put on. Richmond's kind of gotten left behind. It's kind of been the redheaded stepchild as of late. So we'll see. Maybe the next gen car kind of gives us those moments again where we see them have to really drive the car hard at Richmond because it is a very unique configuration. It's unlike any other track on the schedule. So maybe it'll get back to its uniqueness down the road and really be a short track because it isn't one, even though it is, in the next couple of years. But going from short track racing, if you want to call, let me do that better. Short track racing at Richmond to now the biggest track, actually no longer the biggest track on the schedule. God, I've been able to say that for the last 20 years. Now no longer the biggest track on the schedule. Used to be the biggest oval on the schedule. Talladega is this weekend. We are super speedway racing. Susie says I say this every week, but this is truly one of my favorite races of the year. Talladega is my favorite racetrack. Me, Talladega is more wild. It's bigger. You get bigger bangs, bigger busts, bigger winners. Talladega is my personal favorite track on the entire NASCAR schedule as of right now. No, Daytona's got the best facility. Talladega is my favorite track. It's this weekend. I can't wait for it. Looking forward to it. There's supposed to be a lot of rain in the Carolinas on Saturday, so I'm hoping that might mean I get to watch the ARCA and Xfinity race because those are also always great races. Obviously, I don't have any plans on Sunday because I plan on watching the Cup race. What say you? Do you like Talladega? Do you look forward to it? And what do you think we're going to get coming into Sunday?
I love Talladega. I mean, it truly is like a marquee event that you got to watch. If you're going to get into NASCAR, like Talladega is just so iconic. It's top 5 track on the circuit, probably top 3 track on the circuit. We're probably going to see what we usually see around Talladega. To me, Talladega, like Daytona, it has a lot of dulls. You don't really get those dulls at Talladega. Like you can honestly say when you have a bad Daytona race, besides 2018, the fall, you can't really say when you had a bad Talladega race.
Yeah, I think wasn't that the race where Stewart Haas pretty much just took over and just ran away with the entire race forever?
Yes, Stewart Haas raced, and they were like 16 seconds ahead of the pack, and now they'd be lucky to be within 16 seconds of the lead nowadays.
Oh, we might talk about that a little bit later, but I agree with you. Talladega is very rarely do you get a bad Talladega race. Obviously, Matt says he's never been to Talladega. Now, have you been to Talladega?
No.
See, I've been to Talladega 2 or 3 times. Love it. It's just the drive sucks, but love it. We got to get Matt to some of these southern races. I've already worked up a deal. We're trying to get Armany to the 600 this year. I've already got his ticket covered if he can get down to up to the Carolinas, I guess. We'll all have to get together one day and go to some races. But, Talladega, is part of it the big one. Maybe. You don't see the big one but 4 times a year. But it's not all about crashing. I've seen great races where they didn't crash. Let's hope we make it past lap 14 this weekend. That's really the main goal. But to me, Talladega is so much of the unknown. That race can change from entering turn 1 to entering turn 3. It can be a completely different race. Completely different characters up front. Maybe half the field's disappeared. My buddy Rookie's in here. Talladega is one of my favorites every single year, both races. Obviously, I love both Daytona races. I love restrictor plate racing, even though they don't run restrictor plates anymore, whatever you want to call it. It's the unknown winners. I mean, you have no clue who could win this race. Quinn House, he'd probably ruin it. But, you could have someone like Anthony Alfredo go out and win this race who has no business winning a Cup race. And we saw Michael McDowell, his teammate, win the Daytona 500. Talladega, to me, offers even more of that because you get bigger packs, you got more lanes of racing, you get all of that stuff. So I'm really excited for the race this weekend. We're going to get into picks here in just a moment. Actually, why even wait? Obviously, I think the keys to this race is you want to survive. These plate races, as of recent, have all been about survival. There's been a big one and a big one in all of them as of recent, pretty much since the 2018 race that you're talking about. It's been, really only 9 or 10 cars truly have a shot at the end. So I'll get you the first dibs. You go ahead. Who will roll into victory lane on Sunday afternoon at Talladega?
I feel like I pick this driver at least once every year to win a plate race. He's due for a plate race win. I just shit on his team like just a couple minutes ago. Kevin Harvick is finally going to get SHR into victory lane, even though I don't even think he has more than 30 laps left on the season.
Not a bad pick. Kevin Harvick's always been weird on plate track. There was a phase where it was right after he had won the Daytona 500, and I think he may have won at Talladega at some point. He won at Talladega over Jamie McMurray in the 29 car. There was a moment where he was really well. He ran plate tracks very, very well. And I was one of those guys. He's kind of like how Keselowski's kind of following this category now. Keselowski has more plate wins than Harvick does. But for like 5 years after that, I would always want to pick Harvick to win the race. And he has not won one since then. But I think he had won like back-to-back shootouts at Daytona to start the season. Harvick just had a 2 or 3 year run where he was really, really good at plate racing. And then since then, he's been terrible. But I always kept that in my mind, kind of like how Keselowski has wrecked in almost every plate track in the last 4 years. But you have it in your mind. He's won so many of those things that you're still like, hey, he could do it. He could be the guy. And so I always wanted to pick Harvick. And recently I finally been able to train my mind to get out of that. So I no longer look at Harvick as a plate guy anymore. Wouldn't be a terrible pick, though. They had some crazy speed at Daytona. They probably had the fastest car at Daytona I've ever seen Stewart-Haas have. Unfortunately, everybody wrecked and got murdered on lap 14 of the race. That was over with. But who's really going to win the race on Sunday is first of all, I think it's his car. I'm not even going to say that because I can't remember if it was his or his teammate's car. But this guy's going to do it. He's having a good season. May or may not discuss him a little bit later. Ricky Sticky Stenhouse Jr.
Oh,
in this race. All right.
I thought I was supposed to be the one with the whack ass pick.
Huh?
I thought I was supposed to be the one with the whack ass pick.
No, you pick wacky shit like John Hunter Nemechek making the playoffs. Right? I pick things as in a guy who finished second by this much in this race last year is going to win. All right. They've had a really good season. I'm going to talk. I can't give it away. I may or may not talk about him in a little bit. To explain a further reason why he may win this weekend. But Ricky Sticky Stenhouse Jr. is going to win this race. Of course, Matt calls him Ricky Spinhouse because I appreciate that, Matt. I appreciate you having my back. And that's why I'm never visiting Canada, all right? And that is why, all right? That's why hockey isn't a sport. I'm just kidding.
My God.
You can never say that. Hockey, those hockey dudes will mess you up. But anyways, but there we go. You got your picks. We got this guy who somehow thinks Kevin Harvick's going to go back to 2010 and win a plate race. We've got me thinking that Stenhouse isn't going to wreck half the field. So there we go. That's a deadly combination right there. But now let's get into our main topic of the night, and it's a little game we're going to play called Good, Meh, and Bad. We've got 5 drivers for each of these categories. It is the quarter mark of the season, and 9 races are down. We have 36 total races. If you do simple math, I know some people may struggle with fractions. That is 1/4 of the season out of the way. We are officially all right. Trust me, if you would have asked me that fraction in 4th grade, I'd have been screwed. So, anyways,
I don't think we have any right to talk about math.
Yeah, I don't because whatever equals 20. Well, whatever the hell we said it was. Oh, God, it was terrible. So, pretty much what we wanted to do is we have 3 categories through 9 races. Who's been good? Who's been nothing crazy? Maybe they had some hype behind them, but they've kind of been there. And then who's been bad? Who were guys we had expectations for or just flat out haven't done anything that maybe you would expect them to do? And so that's what we've done. So the way we're going to do this, Armany's going to go first and I'll go second. We're going to start out with the great, then go to the math, and go to the bad. We're going to list all 5 drivers. And then Armany and me, I have notes usually on 1 or 2 guys in each category. Armany may have notes on 2 or 3 guys. I don't really know how he has his set up, but I'm going to let him talk about them. We'll discuss it. We'll react to each other and then have a good conversation. We'll act like we like each other for once and go on to the next group. So start out. Who are your 5 drivers who have been good through the quarter mark that you're impressed with?
I got Denny Hamlin, Mark Truex, the lead dog at Hendrick, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and William Byron.
All right. Now, who do you want to elaborate on?
I guess we'll start off with the obvious, Denny Hamlin. He doesn't have a win yet, but 8 top 5s in 9 races. His lowest finish is 11th, I believe, at Homestead. And I think he had a problem to where he finished outside the top 10, so he probably could have 9 top 5s in 9 races. So Hamlin has had one of the best seasons I've seen. His average finish is like 4.2 something. It's just outrageous. You don't have the wins to show, but he, like I said, he's had like 4 or 5 wins right now. That's how good his season's been. I think he has over 500 or 600 laps led on the season. That's just how good Hamlin has been. And I talked about this on last week's episode when, your ass was in hibernation and I was with Johnny on the podcast. But I mentioned it because it's interesting. We know Hamlin is not good with pressure. We've seen it throughout every time he competes for a title. We've even seen it through Bristol Dirt, where, the time comes for the occasion and it just doesn't happen unless it's the Daytona 500. Then he just turns to the resurrection of Jesus himself. So I said, because it seemed like before Martinsville, Hamlin was very quiet, very under the radar. I said that could potentially play to his advantage when come championship time because, he's been riding under the radar for so long. He doesn't have that pressure on him because, like in 2019, we knew it was going to be Kyle Busch. 2018, we knew it was Harvick, Kyle Busch, or Truex. 2020, we knew it was Harvick. This year, we've had Larson, we've had Truex, we have him. We have a couple names thrown in there. So I was saying that could potentially be used to Hamlin's advantage because he doesn't have all this pressure put on him. So that's my first guy I'm going to talk about. The next one is Kyle Larson coming back to the sport. He sits 6th in the standings right now after, lousy Richmond race where, he was like 3 laps down because, you win a race at Richmond, and then all of a sudden he just wants to run outside the top 20 the entire race. So thanks for that, Larson. Even Jimmy Johnson was top 10 in Richmond. Jimmy Johnson was straight up doo-doo for the past 4 years of his career. But anyways, so he has, I believe, the second most laps led. Obviously, he's got that win at Vegas. Probably should have won Homestead. Should have won Atlanta. Probably would have been a contention for Bristol Dirt. Just the comeback he's been going on ever since. He made it seem like he didn't skip a beat. You'd think he would struggle, but no. He just came in. He's like, yep, no, I'm just going to take over. I'm going to be the best. Stakes chase. That championship looks nice, but I'm gone.
He's been better than he was.
Exactly. But yeah, Hamlin, great start to the season. Doesn't have the win to show for it, but he's just been on a tear right now. And Larson, he's showing why he's the lead dog at Hendrick.
You got to win a championship before you're the lead dog at Hendrick. But anyways, my 5 good drivers or great drivers, however you want to do it. Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, and Ricky Sticky Stenhouse Jr., baby. Hamlin's obvious. Hamlin right now would be your title favorite if you had to pick, even though he's not going to win it because it's Denny Hamlin. Martin Truex Jr. has so far. Remember, I said a couple years ago, I don't think he'll ever be what he was without, when he had Cole Pern. Thus far this year, he's kind of been that guy. He's won a couple of races. He's looking good. Kyle Larson, it's been obvious he hasn't even skipped a beat, and hell, he's been better than what he left with last year. He's done a great job. The 2 guys I want to really look at is William Byron and Ricky Sticky Stenhouse Jr. All right, William Byron, 7 top 10s in 9 races. That's 7 top 10s in a row. He had bad races the first 2 races of the year. All right, his last 7 starts, he has a 6.0 average finish. Overall in the year, he has an 11.2 average finish. He sits 4th in points. Nobody probably knows that, but he is 4th in points. All right, which is crazy. Right now, he's the lead guy at Hendrick points-wise. He's led 138 laps through 9 races. His career high is 233. So thus far, through a quarter of the season, he's already led 59% of what his career average or his career high has been. Most likely going to get a career high in laps led at some point this year. Now, winning-wise, it seems like they may have cooled off a little bit. They got one early, obviously, but he's been fast in the 24 car. This is the best the 24 cars look since obviously Jeff Gordon was there. In this short of a period of time, Chase had really good moments. Chase should have won some races, but Byron has looked really well thus far. And nobody's really talking about him. I saw a couple other guys message me on Twitter. I put it this morning. I put one of my fun facts. I had no clue William Byron was 4th in points. I had no clue he had 7 top 10s in 9 races. So I had put that, and some people talk about. They talked to Dave Moody, the Godfather, on Sirius about William Byron. I think he's been great thus far, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. It's crazy to think about it. They only have 1 top 5 and 1 top 10 this year, but I did not know this until I looked at it. Right now, they're 14th in points. If they ended right now, they would point their way into the playoffs. Yes, a JTG car would point their way into the playoffs. He has a 13.1 average finish. So keep that in mind. He is just 2 positions on average behind where William Byron has finished thus far. Okay, 13.1 right now would be his career best. Now, again, it's through 9 races. I get it. A lot is going to change over the next 27 races. But right now, career high. His worst finish is 18th. Worst finish. They finished 18th twice. I also believe that was the first 2 races of the season. Remember, he finished 2nd at Bristol Dirt. A couple of laps away, he probably would have won Bristol Dirt. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr., while people like to make jokes and like to laugh and like to do this, has actually been very, very consistent to start the season. Now, what will most likely happen, what we've seen before, is they'll have a rough summer. It'll kind of fizzle out. They'll end up finishing 22nd, 23rd in points, somewhere in that kind of situation. But those are the two drivers I wanted to highlight on my great list that are having a really good season that a lot of people haven't been paying attention to. So, unless you want to add something to that, because I know you look like you might have had something to say about old Ricky Stenhouse. Who are you?
Talking about Stenhouse.
Yeah,
I was looking at Stenhouse. I was looking at the comments.
Oh God! Oh, it's legal to drink. Oh God! Don't tell Armany that. Don't tell Armany that. So going in
information.
Now we have our second category, guys. What we're gonna say, man, we're gonna say, they've been so-so. Who do you have on that list?
I got the defending champion, Chase Elliott. I got Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and our most recent winner, Alex Bowman.
Oh, I'm surprised you have Bowman on there. Even though I was shocked that Bowman was actually 13th in points because he was like top 5 and then he just dropped.
Yeah, I guess I'll start off with some notables. I mean, I'll just go through them all pretty quick. Chase Elliott, I mean, he's had the speed, but he's been very inconsistent. A lot of just sub-10th place runs. I believe Homestead was one of them, notable one, a lot of mile and halves. Hey, Big John, I didn't even check while sober. And that was just for the playoffs. Imagine if I was drunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chase Elliott, a lot of sub-15 runs. Even just speed-wise, I've seen him a lot just in the teens. So that team needs to figure something out. He's only had really one race where he looked like he had a shot to win. That was the road course of Daytona. Other than that, like you'd be crazy to pick him to win anywhere, in my opinion. Harvick, I mean, obviously we know SHR struggles. He's been the only one really carrying that team, even though it seems like these past couple of weeks he's finally starting, kind of go down a little bit. I mean, I think he finished outside the top 10 2 times out of the last 3 races, if I'm not mistaken. Brad Keselowski, same way, just been non-existent. Only has like 3 top 10s on the season. So that team's got to figure it out, especially because Blaney and Logano are just miles above him right now. Kyle Busch in 11th. I think that team is finally starting to click on it. They're starting to finally have that speed, that his JGR counterparts are finally having. So I think Kyle Busch, he'll pick it up. He'll probably get in the top 10 in points. I think he's going to have a better year than last year. And then Bowman. Bowman was just – I said a lot of bad luck. And same way, I think Bowman has had more speed than Chase Elliott. I've seen him in the top 5 and the top 10 more than I've seen Chase Elliott. But just the finishes hadn't shown for it. This team doesn't know how to put a race together, whether it's through bad luck or something else, or just mechanical issues. And before this race, he was 17th in the points. He was the first guy out. And then obviously the win jumped him up to 13th, basically locked him into the playoffs. But again, they're finally starting to get the ball in the right direction, but I need to see more from this 48 team before I can even consider them. I still consider them maybe a first-round exit just because, they need to finally put some of these races together. Not bad. These guys haven't had a terrible season, but just pretty lackluster for, what we expect these guys to be.
Yep. So my list is Bubba Wallace, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick. Bubba, the reason for Bubba on here is because there's so much hype around that team, and they're the 5th Gibbs car, and they still might be, but me and you talked about we weren't sure the level of support and everything. Kind of assumed they were the 5th Gibbs car, but you never know. And with the funding they have, I've been surprised they haven't ran better. They're still sitting like 20th. Actually, he was one of the guys I was going to highlight. 20th in points, no top 10s, and has a 21.6 average finish. Like I just said, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on average is finishing 8 positions better than Bubba Wallace in a JTG car. So it's just been – now, again, it's a new team. There's things you have to work through. They've had some struggles, but Bubba's also made some mistakes. So they're going to have to still learn and grow as a team. That's why I have him on this list. There was so much hype around this team, and it has not translated this far. Kyle Busch was the second guy I was going to highlight. The only JGR car who hasn't really threatened to win. Now, I'm sure there's probably a race or two I might be missing from earlier in the year. But, Bale has a win. Truex has multiple wins. Denny Hamlin should already have multiple wins. Busch, you really can't say he should have won that race. And he's the only guy that you could say that about at JGR right now. 14.1 average finish. So, again, to just keep throwing it in there, worse than Ricky Stenhouse Jr. through 9 races. He's only led 8 laps thus far, and he's 11th in points. For Kyle Busch, That is a rough season. Now, for a lot of drivers, that's a dream season. But thus far, very rough season for the two-time champ, and that's why he's on this list. Chase Elliott, I agree with what you said. Now, mind you, Chase started the season pretty solid, it looked like. If they race back to the green, there's a chance he wins the Daytona 500. That's irrelevant. Should have won the Daytona road course before they magically decided to throw a caution for its sprinkling. And then there was another race or two where he's had shots in a car that looked good enough to win the race, and they just haven't taken care of business. I think a lot of what, like Brett Griffin, former spotter for Clint Boyer, had said, I think they hit on a bunch of things in the playoffs last year, and they're kind of saving a lot of that right now. They're experimenting with some things. So I hope that's the case. I have no clue if that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but I would have expected Chase to have a win by now. I'm not nervous like everyone on Twitter who wants to freak out because Chase is the only Hendrick car without a win. I could really care less at this point. He's going to be fine. Brad Keselowski, you pretty much hit it. Logano and Blaney have both won races. They both competed to win races multiple times. Keselowski hasn't. And, Keselowski's he's a weird driver to read right now. There's so many rumors about him leaving Penske last year, this year. I've said I wouldn't be surprised if he retired kind of early. Keselowski's a weird guy to read, and he's kind of been lackluster thus far. And then Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick's actually having a mortal season compared to most drivers, but compared to what he normally does, it's been pretty bad. Not running really well. I may talk about him in here in just a little bit, but I agree with you on. I think me and you agree. I think on 4 drivers. We switch out Bowman and Bubba. We have the same exact list pretty much. So yeah, that's kind of the drivers we have that are kind of in the middle right now that we want to see some more for, expected more from. On the last part of the list, who do you have on your quote unquote bad list through 9 races?
I got Matt DiBenedetto, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Cole Custer, and Eric Almirola.
Okay, elaborate.
All right, I'll just go through them same way as I did with the Met. DiBenedetto had a terrible start to the season, finally got his first top 10 of the year. They look like they're finally starting to get the ball rolling. Don't look like it's too little too late. They're sitting top 20 in points at P18, so they might have a shot. But considering where they were last year, where they were I think at this point, 11th or 12th in points, it's pretty damn disappointing. They don't have the kinks cleared out, that they ran into a bunch of issues, barely went to the playoffs last year, very fizzled out, and they seem to be continuing that tone, especially because DiBenedetto's technically still looking for a ride for next year.
Yep.
You can't be having runs like this where you're waiting 9 races to finally get a top 10. Tyler Reddick, he's going through the sophomore slump. It happens with a lot of drivers. It's happened with Harvick. It's happened with the one notable driver. Happened with Kenseth.
I also talked to one of my sources, or really the only guy I've had this source, who's very close to the Richard Childress Racing situation. That team is going through some rough stuff right now in the inside. They're also not pushing the limit too much because they really don't. They can't afford fines right now with the situations that are going on inside. So that's another reason they're really not pushing the envelope. But keep going.
Ross Chastain, that 40 Chip Ganassi racing right now is like what Red Bull Racing was in Formula One, where you got one car that's just doing amazing, it's just doing great, competing for top 10s, winning races, and then you got the other car that's just basically non-existent. Same way, this 42 car where 24th in points in the Ganassi car, only one top 10 of the season, Daytona 500, been a nuisance on the track more times than not, honestly. Sometimes I forget that Ross Chastain is in the 42 car. This guy, a couple of years ago, was seen as the next big thing in NASCAR, and now he's just completely fallen off the face of the earth, which he's not a rookie. He's got 2 or 3 years prior of Cup experience under him, so something's got to happen with that 42 car. I don't know what's wrong with them, with Ganassi. They need to fix their stuff, because once Kurt Busch leaves, they might go back to what they were in the early 2000s with Casey Mears and David Stremme. Cole Custer and Eric Almirola kind of just put them both together. They've just both Storehouse racers just been abysmal. Almirola finally got their Storehouse races first non-Kevin Harvick top 10 on the season, and he's still 27th in point. It's not. They're getting beaten by Front Row, JTG Doherty, Trackhouse, 2311, new teams, 27th, 25th. I think Briscoe's 28th. Storehouse Racing, honestly, they're not. They look like a bottom 5 team right now. You take away Kevin Harvick, Storehouse Racing looks almost as bad as Starcom or Spire. That's how just abysmal they've been. You should not have a Storehouse Racing car in 25th, 27th, and 28th in points.
I would agree with you. It's almost like you read my mind. My list for bad thus far is Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer, Eric Almirola, and Anthony Alfredo. Ross Chastain has – I haven't looked at his stats. He's actually pretty middle of the road, kind of what you would expect for a guy who's finally going full-time in Cup. But the problem is he has so many Cup starts under his belt. You kind of thought maybe the rookie phase would kind of be out of him. He started a lot of races in this package, these cars, been around a lot of these guys. And, Kurt Busch has proven that Ganassi has speed. It may not be race-winning speed, but they have speed. And Chastain just really has not – he hasn't made noise at all. He hasn't really been fast at all anywhere. So kind of been disappointing. We know Ross can drive. Ross is a good guy. You want to see do well. But it's just kind of rough. I'm going to talk about Stewart-Haas as a whole, kind of similar to what you did. I'm going to jump to Anthony Alfredo first, and this is a comparison I know you will love. We all pretty much said, what the hell is Anthony Alfredo doing in the Cup Series? We still have pretty much been saying that. Right now he's 30th in points. Through 9 races last season, John Hunter Nemechek was 20th in points, a full 10 spots higher than Anthony Alfredo in points in the same front row car. Now, John Hunter Nemechek did end up finishing 27th in points. He had a rough back half of the year. Right now, Anthony Alfredo has an average finish of 29.1. John Hunter, through the entire season last year, ended with a 22.4, nearly 7 spots better. So just remember the decision you made. Now, part of it was mutual. John Hunter also kind of took himself out of the situation. But just remember, this is what you're getting. You hire a kid who has never ran full-time, who has just a handful of starts combined in NASCAR, who is a slightly richer version of Quinn Houff. Better than Quinn Houff, do not get me wrong. Anthony Alfredo has actually done things at the Xfinity level and looked fast. But in terms of experience, has just as much experience, just a few more starts. He just has not been good at the Cup level. I think this is going to end up being a kid who gets phased out pretty quick because he decided to make this big of a move this early. You can't really blame the kid because you get a chance to go Cup racing, but he may end up ending his career early because he's putting himself in a situation where he's not running well. His teammate, albeit was the Daytona 500, won a race, going to be in the playoffs. He's barely eligible. Behind him in points is Quinn Houff. So just to kind of set where that season's going. Stewart-Haas Racing. Overall, they have 4 cars through 9 races, a total of 36 individual starts. They have 7 top 10s total. 6 of those are Kevin Harvick, and then 1 of Eric Almirola. So far, you look at where they sit in the points. Harvick is 8th, Custer's 25th, Almirola is 27th, Briscoe is 28th. Their average point standing right now is 22nd in points. All right. You look at their average finishes. Harvick has an 11.0. Custer, 20.7. Eric Almirola, 23.6. Chase Briscoe, 22.7 average finish. Their combined average finish as a team is 19.5. Take out Harvick, it's 22.3. They have been terrible. They have been abysmal. Stewart-Haas Racing has effectively taken themselves out of the conversation for being an elite Cup Series team for this season. Now, Kevin Harvick is probably going to eventually win a race. It's Kevin Harvick. Now Kevin Harvick has had spurts in his career where he did not win races, but I think somewhere they're going to figure something out with Harvick to at least win a race this year, which is crazy to think that we're having to ask if Harvick is going to win a single race. The other 3 have been terrible. Briscoe is really the only one with an excuse. I mean, I guess you could say Custer has that sophomore slump kind of going on. Briscoe has just had a rough year. He's had some decent moments, but rough year. Eric Almirola, we've talked time and time again, have no clue how he continues to sit in the 10 car. Obviously, we know in reality it's Smithfield, it's sponsorship. They need to get him out of there. He's not going to win races for them. He's proven time and time again he's not going to win races for them. The one race he did win, they pretty much pushed him around for 500 miles. Stewart-Haas has been trash. I mean, they have been garbage. Hendrick is finally turning it on. Gibbs is turning it on. Penske's turning it on. JTG looks like they know what they're doing right now. Both their drivers are in the top 20 in points, I believe. We talked about Stenhouse earlier. Priest had a hot start of the year. He's fizzled out, but he's still running decent. I'm with you. Pretty much all of Stewart-Haas. I originally had listed in my bad section just Stewart-Haas Racing. But, I split it up between the 3 drivers. So me and you see eye to eye on a lot of things. Shocking, but not shocking. Nothing too crazy on here. Glad you left Daniel Suarez off the list. I was really nervous about that. But
Suarez, he needs – same thing with Bowman. He needs to close out races also. Plus, that's a new team also. I kind of let the new teams out of the list because, okay, you put them in the mad category. It's like, what do you expect? You kind of put them in the bad category. You be like, okay, it's acceptable. You can only really put them in the great category, and that's only, if they're having, like 5 top 10s already on the year.
Right. But
which Suarez should have.
Suarez has ran very well. Suarez is really impressed this year. Him and Track.
By the way,
thanks.
Smithfield Bacon is 5. A little too soft for 5.
It probably is. Maybe if he could win a race, I'll go buy some. But yeah. Unless you got anything else, I think that's our show for the night. 45 minutes kind of flew by tonight. We talked about everything. If you guys are just tuning in, go back. We talked a little bit about Richmond, Talladega coming up. Then we just finished up good, Matt, and bad. Kind of broke down a couple of the drivers at the quarter mark of the season. So we appreciate everybody coming in here. We got our buddy Matt, my buddy Rookie in here. Matt was active all night. Stuart Hall. He said Stuart Hall's heading for a rebuild. Unfortunately, I just don't know who they're going to rebuild with. Riley Herbst, I don't think is going to be that guy. Haley Diggins still years away. Todd Gilliland's not going to happen. David Gilliland's never going to happen. Other Ford guys, there really aren't any. Austin Cindric, we know where he's going to be. Stuart Haas is in trouble right now. I mean, they're going to have to go poach somebody if they're going to put him in a car because right now is not going well for them. So, but with that said, make sure you find my boy Armany at Motor Minister. Make sure you tweet at him, tell him he needs to go to the Coca-Cola 600. You can find me.
I'm going to Canada. What you mean?
I'm going to Canada, baby. You can find me at NASCAR_opinion, all lowercase. And with that being said, unless something crazy happens, we will see you guys next week. We appreciate it.